Yeah. Welcome out, everybody, once again. This is the Remix Morning Show. This is that boom bap breakfast on Black Power Media. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and your host today, Jackie Lukeman,
Juki
Ernest Kim
Lukeman.
Brown, and Kamal Franklin. Let's go.
Oh my God.
Juki Lukeman. That's the new name, Juki.
Oh, man.
No.
She will juke you out here in these streets. Don't play with Jacqueline because she will go jokey.
Well, actually, now that you put it like that, yeah, okay. I all right.
Juke 'em. Man, I'm over here drinking some tea out. I did a penthouse party on the rooftop the other night. Got a little sniffle, so I'm a little.
Aww.
That's the excuse. That's
my
what
excuse.
we're rolling with.
Get you some of that oregano oil. Yeah, doctor.
Word. How y'all doing?
Fabulous,
Good,
man.
I thought I was
Word.
running extra late because I totally overslept, and I was like, "Oh, it's 7:50, maybe I should move." So
Kim,
I'm glad I'm not super late. Good morning,
you look
everybody.
like you've been up for hours, Kim.
For hours, yeah, doctor, all night. It's been an all-nighter, sir.
Word. Kamal, you gonna come off mute?
I was doing jokes and everything, B.
I mean,
I was really funny.
We didn't know.
I thought I was doing Jackie Jukeman jokes, and nobody heard any of that.
Nah.
No, none of that.
I have to stretch that out throughout the show. I have to make up for all that.
Recycle that. That's still good material there.
Yeah.
Exactly. My bad. My bad. Okay.
Well, they go by when I don't mess a name up. I don't know. So
Not
what y'all
an
got
hour.
up for the weekend?
Not
love
an
me
hour go
anyway.
by. What do you mean a day? An hour, B.
What y'all got up for the weekend?
I don't know. I'm still waiting for Jackie Lukeman to reply to my email subject line, me and you, salt and pepper for Halloween. Jackie says she ain't replying to my email. I'm just messing with you,
I
Jackie.
was like, wait. I didn't know we had a date. I'm sorry.
No, we didn't. In my mind, because Jackie's my best friend in my head. Of course, we would be salt and pepper together for Halloween.
Of course.
Oh,
Salt
okay.
and pepper's
Like,
here.
I'm
But
busy.
yeah, I did promise to.
She's like, I got to go back out of the country. You didn't know that? I gotta go
Look,
back.
I almost didn't come back, y'all.
No.
I thought y'all was gonna be lemon pepper and Laurie's.
Shut up, Ian.
Stop.
No, Jacqueline. I don't know if we're gonna have an opportunity for you to tell us all about Colombia.
Yes.
Everyone who was following you on Twitter was like living your Cali dreams with you virtually. So I'm so excited to hear about how your trip went.
Please, y'all rock out.
Yeah,
I mean,
he just messing my
That's how he
name up
do.
and just like boop.
That's how you
Jokey,
do it.
right?
Mhm.
Your
Yeah,
doctor, real jokey.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I seriously, I was like, I almost did not come back, were it not for the fact that Brewski was being had a new sitter, and now she's his girlfriend, and her little girl is his other girlfriend. If it wasn't for the fact that the dog was still here, yeah, it would have been a toss up. It was difficult. I came back into Miami Sunday night, and the first thing I saw in Miami International Airport was that big fucking U.S. flag, and I was like, "Fuck this place, man."
God damn it, I'm back.
Nobody in Colombia is flying flags all over the place. Look, Colombia is a racist country. There's some serious problems in Colombia, but the people are, our people, the Afro-Colombians, the indigenous people, mad amazing people. I don't want to take up all the time talking about, my almost escape from the U.S. that may yet still happen.
You got to create satellites. You got to create satellites. So that's good. That's good.
I'm saying, and I gotta say, just before, I am one fortunate sister because I got to spend the whole time with Ajamu Baraka and Chato Mina
Wow.
Rojas, two of the most amazing Africans and two of the most kind and loving people. And if you do not know, and you probably don't, Ajamu Baraka is funny as hell. He is like this OG comedian. He is
Picture him as
so
deadpan. He does
hilarious.
deadpan humor, kind of like
Completely
yeah.
deadpan.
That's what I
Completely. You're
picture.
just like, he says shit, and you're just like, that man told me I had a curfew one night.
What?
Yeah, I was out. I was hanging out after this conference, and he texted me, and I'm like, yeah, we're out at dinner, and we're just having some drinks, and because another comrade, Max Remo, came to
Oh,
Columbia for a
Max.
big conference.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, we're just out having dinner after the conference. We're gonna have some drinks, and I'm fine. I'll get a car, you know. And he was like, okay, that's fine, but you got a curfew. I'm like, what the fuck?
Right. Like, I am grown.
Hold and I came in the house, and this is like one of the only personal stories I'm going to tell. I came in the house. He is literally sitting in the door in on the sofa, which is next to the door, watching television. It's like 10:30, and he's like, "Oh, I was about to get my belt." I'm like,
No,
what?
True.
waiting for
True.
his person to come through the door. Like,
I'm
hey,
like,
man.
True.
I'm like, when did you call my daddy and set this up? Because this is I don't know what to think about this, but I had a ball, and yeah, I'd love to talk about it more, but there's plenty more to talk about going on in this cesspool of
Mm,
evil and hatredness.
Damn.
hmm.
Damn.
Well,
That's how I feel about it now,
congratulations.
y'all.
I'm so happy you had the opportunity to go, Jackie, because I mean, obviously you deserve all the things, all the best things in the world. So this sounded like this was really a life experience for you that you really enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was kind of, in a way, it was there was a very spiritual aspect to it,
Hmm.
but it was also very life changing. I don't know, life changing,
Hmm.
but like affirming
Hmm.
of the work we do here. And there's the struggles of our people going on in Colombia are like absolute mirrors to the struggles that we are experiencing here. I think the only difference is the police in Colombia, when they encounter protests, they just kill people, right? In the they have, and like earlier this week, another another activist was killed by police in Colombia. So, the protests have died down. The national strike was massive. The people in Buenaventura that really kind of kicked it off in 2017 by blocking off the city and effectively shutting down the port, of which feeds commerce for most of the country. Um, they are negotiating with the city fund that was set up that they will administer that came out of that protest. And so, the struggle continues for the people, for the Afro Colombian people and the indigenous people in Colombia. But the U.S. is all involved in that. The U.S. has given Colombia, the right wing government of Ivan Duque, a lot of money that the
Mhm.
people have not seen. And they know that now, partially because of our involvement in that conference. So I mean, it was just it was a wonderful experience to relax, get some spiritual rejuvenation, and really just see and really just kind of live out international solidarity. So that was really cool.
Did you meet your FBI agent? You know how everybody says we have our own FBI agent assigned to us. Did you see yours following you in the streets of Colombia?
I don't think so. I don't think so. It would have been it would have well, it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been easy to spot an
Mm,
FBI agent in Colombia, because I mean, you've got when you look at the demographics of the country, Colombia is a formerly colonized country, so they've still got this serious racial caste system where the mestizos or the Spanish, the white folks are all in power, and then you've got the Indians, the Indigos, the indigenous folks, and then the Afro Colombians, all the folks in between. So it is very different from the United States in that everybody's kind of thrown in there together. So they're not like places in at least in Cali where there is more of one group of people than the other. There are definitely states in Colombia where there are more Afro descended people. Buenaventura is one of those people, one of those places. But in Cali, yeah, it would have been hard for me to spot an FBI agent because, you know, everybody just kind of looks like everybody.
Everybody, right?
Yeah, but the infiltration was going on, but I can't talk any more about that because I have to clear it with our national organizer first. But I mean, I think it was what we experienced was a good object lesson in how other countries take its cues from the United States in how to co-opt and stop a people's movement. And they do it with money, and they do it with political messaging. And it was a sight to behold. It was interesting.
Okay. Okay. Well,
But I didn't get in trouble. I didn't.
You made
I, I,
curfew, so
I
we
made
glad you good
curfew.
with that.
I
So.
didn't get stopped by customs. I was afraid that all of my, some of the stuff that I brought back would get snatched by customs, but it didn't.
Oh,
And
good.
no, not any of the stuff any of y'all are thinking about. But yeah, I did try Colombian sugarcane um, whiskey, which is moonshine, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dang, Jackie. If I'd have known you was bringing back trinkets, I would have dropped you a couple bucks. Like, please bring me back a pound of coffee.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that and I actually brought some of that back, and it's sitting on my kitchen counter. Like, do I really want to do that again? I don't think I do. I don't think I do. But seriously, last thing, when you go to Latin America, if somebody invites you to a party in Latin America, get your sleep the night before. Because these people are not playing with the parties. I left at 4 a.m. to get a 6:45 flight.
Whoa.
These folks were still up on the rooftop terrace throwing down. 4 a.m. From 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. There was a live band. Music was amazing. These people were passing around shots of sugarcane, moonshine, and then Johnny Walker Red, and then something that was a milky kind of. I don't, I don't know. I don't know what was going on, but I don't know how these people stayed standing. But if you ever get invited to a party in Latin America, take your vitamins, take a nap before, and don't expect to go home until the next afternoon.
So you basically slept on the plane.
I slept on the plane. I did not go to sleep. I slept on that plane. I sure did.
All right, little party left in you. All right.
Yeah.
A little bit.
All right. I'll make my way down to DC to see what's going on. It's got a little party in there, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know if I can carry out a party like that, but I'm just saying.
You can always try. You can always try.
I'll give it a shot.
Always try.
Yep.
No
house party at the Lukemans. House party at the
Lukemans. That is going to happen one day. But anyway, we do have lots of stuff coming up today, though. I mean, on the show, we got the news. Obviously, we got more Ear Doctor. I am really excited about an interview that I was able to get with Jalil Muntakim. I mean, man, I'm just amazed I'm just so excited. Just how.
Wait, you gonna be with us for the whole 2 hours?
No, unfortunately, no. Come on, I gotta get a man a wake up call at 8:30. So I mean, I asked really nice so he could. I mean, don't mess it up.
My bad.
We appreciate any time that we're able to get.
True.
Yep. So, and then, I think we have another interview later in the show with Kalanji. I think Kalanji has somebody also. But we got a full plate today, so I'm really excited to get started. So I see the ear doctor lurking down in the corner.
Lurking.
With the with the Dominican jacket on in the barbershop.
Let's go.
I heard they do hair the best. That's what the ladies say.
Dominicans?
Who's hair?
Listen, I went to the Dominican salon, asked them, I said, y'all do twist? The girl, she was like, twist? What's a twist? She's like blow dry, heat.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, like, we'll straighten that out for you.
Right.
Yeah, I heard they be cornrolling hair till you start bleeding. But that's all I know. I'm up here in the barbershop. We're going to talk that talk. So
let's go.
This is what it is. This is Remix Morning Show, y'all. Let's go.
Woo, speaking of hair. Remix!
Yo, what's good, everybody? What's good, everybody? This is the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. And right now, I would like to ask y'all to do one thing. Make sure y'all like, make sure y'all subscribe, make sure y'all go to our Patreon page. We got some new content coming on that Patreon page for all our remixes and all our people out there listening. So make sure y'all go check that out. Now, so I'm in the barbershop. We up here chopping it up. And we talking about who, this always comes up. Instead of hip hop, we talk about who are the 5 top R&B guys that made music. So my top, which I'm going to start with, is I'm going to go here first. One of my top 5 is no other than Donny Hathaway. Now, Donny Hathaway did 5 studio albums, 4 live albums, 8 compilations, and 17 singles. And he has a voice like no other. Who would I say after? And I'm not even going in any type of order, just top 5. And make sure y'all put y'all's down too in the comment section. Next, I'm going to go over to no other than DC's own Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye has 25 studio albums, 24 compilations, and 4 live albums. And y'all know he is known for giving the lady sexual healing when he comes off with them lyrics in them songs. So Marvin definitely makes the list. Next, we're going to go down to no other than your boy, the big and little Luther Vandross. He has 13 studio albums, 1 live album, 17 compilations, and 59 singles. So Luther has been doing it for a minute. You know what it is. Big up to Luther. He made his transition a while back. Next, I'm going to go to Michael. Why wouldn't I go to Michael? You know what I'm saying? He got 10 studio albums, 34 compilations, 1 live album, and 2 albums after his transition also. And next, y'all might not like it, but I'm going to no other than Usher. That's right. Usher, he has 10 compilation albums, 8 studio albums, 1 live, and 34 charted songs. And he's been doing it for a minute. So that's my top 5 in R&B right now. I know y'all ain't feeling some of them. Some of them I know y'all are, but that's what it is. This is my list, not yours. So that's what it is. Let's get back to the Remix Morning Show. All right.
First of all, you're mixing categories, first of all. And just for folks in the chat, he said top 5 dudes. So just slow down with the whole other, what I'm saying.
Solo artists. I just want
they be ready.
Solo artists.
They be ready to attack remixes. Relax.
I was like, they already.
They be poised.
Michael is not in that. Michael would be another category. He's not. I mean, and then you said you got it. It's like basically you gave a soul hybrid category, and Al Green got to be in there. Curtis Mayfield got to be in there.
Stevie Wonder should have been first word out your mouth.
Are we talking R&B?
Usher, you put Usher on that list.
Usher
over Stevie Wonder.
We said R&B. We didn't say soul. Because I would have put James Brown if it was soul. Al Green. I
You
would have
mixing
put them on
category.
there.
You can't start off. How you going to start off with Donny Hathaway and then say R&B? Donny Hathaway is like soul through and through, B. I don't know what your categories are.
Donnie is one of my favorites. I had to put him in
So
there.
what, he going every list and shit like that?
Top 5 MCs, Donny Hathaway.
Donny Hathaway.
Top 5 rappers, Donny Hathaway.
DJs, Donny mixed the record.
So
I don't make any distinctions between R&B and soul music. Those are the same genre as far as I'm concerned, Ear Doctor. And your top 4 was all passed away, and then the only living one you mentioned was Usher.
Usher.
who right now is carrying the torch right now in R&B?
Nigga, Stevie Wonder is still out here drawing the
He's
breath.
still
Whoa.
He said carrying the torch. He said carrying the torch.
Yeah.
Stevie passed that torch. Stevie's doing.
Yeah.
Stevie is the
reviews.
torch. Stevie is
Stevie
the
can't even
torch.
see the torch right now.
Name a
Hey,
song
we're
Stevie
not
did in
doing
the,
that.
Name a
Hey.
new song Stevie did in the last 5,
First
10
of
years.
all,
Name me a new Stevie song.
Well,
y'all,
Stevie
excuse me,
doesn't
Stevie-
have to do a new song ever in his life.
ever.
Ever.
Thank
I
you,
might have to agree. He
Jacqueline.
passed the torch.
Ever.
Nah, to who?
He's doing oldies but
Stevie
goodies.
is
But
like,
that's the question. Somebody might have dropped it on the. Maybe Maxwell, but he's done too. Maxwell is done, right? Who else?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think Maxwell is still out here carrying that torch pretty well. No?
I don't know.
Over Usher though?
Yeah, anybody's
Yes.
Yes.
anybody's a bunch of
Yes.
Here's the thing
I would
about
say the
Usher.
youngest would be Chris Brown.
Ear Doctor, Jesus.
I'm killing y'all, right?
Murdering me right now, bro. Chris
Hey, I
Brown?
do-
Heart.
I do this just to get y'all mad.
I know you.
And you
do
still
that.
mixing
Trolling.
genres.
Big time trolling. And here's the thing about Usher. Usher's always following the trends. You know what I mean? Like after 8701 and Confessions, Usher was trying to do whatever it was to keep himself relevant. You know what I mean? And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. I mean, I respect Usher's career very much so. I remember Can You Get With It? It's Like That. It's Only a Sexual Thing when he was like 14, and I was with that. I thought that was great. But Stevie's still alive out here, y'all.
Yeah.
Stevie is
Yup.
number one.
Name
Until
me
he
a song
dropped.
Stevie's done in the last 5 years. I mean, Stevie's Stevie's doing old school stuff.
Yeah.
He's like on, he's on the tour, like dude, and that's great. We listen to him, but he's talking about like, if you're gonna talk about who's now, I don't think none of us know who's. Somebody got in the chat gonna have to throw up who's now. Who's happening now? What's happening now? Because I don't know.
Anderson .Paak.
Is that R&B?
Yeah. I mean, I
Okay.
guess you would consider pop R&B, or you want to say Bruno Mars. There's not a lot of people that's.
I mean, Bruno Mars is kind of in that Michael Jackson category. That
Yeah,
that
exactly.
R&B
It's
pop.
like pop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Bruno
Yeah.
Mars is pop.
All right, so
Yeah.
y'all
I
make
mean,
your
that's-
own
I
list
mean-
when we come back and
He's
talk
got a
about it.
voice. He's got a voice, but
That's,
he uses
I mean,
it
it's
with
I
that.
don't deny his talent, but
Mhm.
he's not prolific.
Yeah.
He's
And
not.
he's-
He's not in the same category as Donny Hathaway. He's not in the same category really of any of those folks.
I feel like all he does is impersonate other people.
Who Mars?
Yes.
Bruno Mars. All he does is impersonate other people.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's why I can't feel him.
But see, to me, it's in a complimentary way, in the same way that Prince and Michael Jackson were emulating James Brown. You know what I'm saying? Like I look at Bruno Mars and I can see who his influences are, which I
Right.
dig. I dig that.
And he's very clear about who his influences are, and it's like all the people that we're just talking about: Michael
a
Jackson,
fine line.
James Brown. The
There's a
gods
fine line
and-
between
and-
influence and stealing.
I
I
don't
think
think
he's
he's
crossed that
stealing.
line. He's crossed that
You don't
line.
think James Brown would say that Prince and Michael Jackson had been stealing from him?
At times they might have, of course, but they also were individually extremely talented and produced their own music and genre and all that kind of stuff. I haven't seen that from some Bruno bars or whatever.
And somebody in the chat said Kim, and I'm
Oh, my
rebuking you
goodness.
right now. I'm rebuking you. You're being
Yeah.
you're rebuked.
K-E-M.
Hey,
Let's
Jackie,
be
I
clear.
seen that too. I was
I
like,
was like, Kim sings?
Kim is the worst.
Mr. Girl.
Y'all are bad.
Oh,
Y'all are bad.
Way to go, Ear Doctor.
I'm out of here, man. Y'all have a great show.
Just sent the whole thing off the rails. There we go, Ear Doctor.
Exactly. Word. Can't do that.
share my life.
Oh, Lord. in the sense that they were influenced by him, Shirley. Listen, don't drag me in the chat, Shirley. Shirley said, Kim, how could you put Bruno Mars in the same sentence as Prince and Michael Jackson? Because that's who his influences are. And you can look at him by the way he moves and sings. And yes, those are his music daddies.
And again, he even said that. So I'm not taking away from the dude's talent. He's very talented. I like some of his stuff, but it's not prolific. It's not, when you start off with Donny Hathaway, who when he heard the playback of One Day We'll All Be Free, he did it in one take. And when he heard the playback of his own song, he was moved to tears at his own song. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure Bruno Mars ain't never cried at nothing he done.
I want to be a millionaire.
I cried this song because it's never going to happen to me. But anyway.
Time to spin that globe.
We got news. We got news.
I still miss the actual globe, B. I still miss it.
Maybe we have to say something different besides "Let's spin the globe," right?
I know.
I like spin the globe. I really do.
I'm gonna have to talk to management about this. It's like, what's going on with the globe? Why y'all take the globe out? B?
I like spin the globe, and then there's no globe.
Yeah, I know. I'm like,
apparently there never was a globe, but I swear there was a globe.
Me and you too. I was like, I could have swore there was a goddamn globe.
I could have sworn there was a globe, but okay. They says there wasn't a globe. I trust I trust May way more than I trust my own memory sometimes.
True.
Yes, y'all. So there's a lot of places to begin here as we begin our news roundup. Who would like to begin?
Kamal, you got some stuff.
I got some stuff. Okay, I can start. Because I feel like I'll get the share stuff working faster than y'all, so I can definitely start.
Hey.
I'm
just laying out some truth. So we are about sort of some international news in Africa. I don't think I realized this until I saw the story, but we are within a range of 10 years after the killing of Gaddafi in Libya. Basically the assassination or the destruction of the country that was set up by the United States. And this analysis basically, and Black Agenda report talks a little bit about where Libya was at the time of his assassination. And you can say a lot about what you don't like about Gaddafi and so forth and so on. But the country was considered the wealthiest nation in Africa at the time of the so-called Arab Spring and protests and so forth. Protests, some of which may have been even righteous protests around trying to get some more democracy and so forth, but was obviously used by Western powers to not only take over, but destabilize and ultimately to unseat Gaddafi, who they considered, and rightfully so, right, someone who was against Western imperialism and who had spoken out for decades and supported anti-colonial struggles. And it points out that NATO's bombing of Libya and support for rebels seeking to overthrow Gaddafi had little to do with the wanting the country to prosper, but under the guise of human rights, air quotes, and democracy, the Western Military Alliance helped murder one of Arab's most prominent leaders in order to steal Libya's resources and protect Western hegemony. And as folks know, post the killing, which was something that done under Obama, that Hillary Clinton kind of led and continually has praised, even to this day, that post the assassination, post the killing, what has happened to Libya is that the country has disintegrated, has fallen apart. It says United Nations Human Development Index provides a summary of measures of health, education, and income. In 2010, Libya was ranked number 1 in Africa, 53 out of 189 countries and territories. Today, its ranking has sunk from 53 to 105 worldwide. And as folks know, they're sort of battling governments, battling gangs. So there's a lot to think about in terms of what's happened post Gaddafi's assassination. Again, the fact that the United States praises it still as some successful intervention. And we're 10 years past that point now.
It is what happened, not what happened, what was done to Libya. Because, to say that something happened is like, oh, it was an accident. Nobody planned it. So um, Libya isn't something that happened. The destruction of Libya was done. It was planned. It was intentional, and we should never ever forget that it was done under the first Black president who went to the continent and told African leaders and business people, look, stop looking at the past. And he and his Secretary of State also went to the continent and told business leaders when they specifically asked them, what do we do about the legacy of colonialism? They both told these people, look, stop paying attention to the past, get out of the past. And Hillary Clinton literally said, you have to get out of the past and let's all make this money. Well, she didn't mean all. She didn't mean all the people on the continent. She meant her, the neoliberals in Washington, and their puppet leaders that were propped up, excuse me, on the continent. Um, uh, for all of the contradictions of, Muammar Gaddafi, because there is no perfect leader of any country anywhere. Humans are messy. We all got problems. Um, Gaddafi. We should also never forget that Gaddafi was working to put in place this thing that we are still struggling to realize, which is international Pan African solidarity. He was very close to doing that, to creating a united Africa and the united African diaspora. So, aside from stealing the country's resources, that absolutely had to be stopped. So, this is an anniversary. I think that we a dubious anniversary that we absolutely have to pay a lot of attention to, and never forget, because the implications are still being felt in Libya and around the world.
So I remember when this invasion happened, and I remember, I say this a lot on my show, like I was screaming and pulling out my hair as I'm watching this whole thing go down, because this is 3 years into the Obama presidency, in terms of into his first term. And Obama had run on the fact that he had voted against the war in Iraq. He was positioning himself as someone who was against, regime change as a policy of his administration. So this incident in Libya, and I loathe to even call it an incident, because it was a conspiracy. It was a plot by NATO powers. People in the chat was mentioning Sarkozy. Yeah, fuck France. All that, France was all in it, leading the way. But I remember listening to the local radio station here in DC, WPFW, Home of Jazz and Justice, and they had a show where they were talking to people who were on the ground in Libya. And I'll never forget this. It was a Libyan man. I'm pretty sure it was a Libyan person, and they were weeping, like crying. And the words that were being translated was, Obama, like, how could you do this to us? Like, you come from Africa. You are African. Why are you dropping bombs on your homeland, basically? And that was the beginning of my mental separation politically from Obama, because previous to that, I was all in. First Black president, let's go. He's got this so-called progressive agenda. But when Obama and Hillary and Biden and the NATO powers that be conspired against Gaddafi in this way, I said, this is just another echo of Iraq. We're going to invade this country engage in regime change and destroy this nation. Like, regardless of what people's opinions are of his human rights record or whatever that's worth, for Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein alike, both of their countries were better off with them there, right? And after they were deposed, the countries went to shit intentionally, not just because they were removed, but the U.S. and Western powers helped to facilitate that fall. But that was it for me and Obama. That was it. I said, you doing the same shit as these white folks, sir. Like, there's no way that I could ever support this, you, or anything that comes from this. So horrible what happened in Libya, and the country is still doing worse 10 years later.
Yeah, I mean, as it showed, like it's dropped its ability to feed itself, to sort of be a quote unquote nation state that has structures that reach every part. All of that has been destroyed. Any sort of apparatus that supplies services has been destroyed, and basically it's been a quote unquote failed state since that time period. Like you guys said, not accidentally, not a mishap, on purpose policy, not only for current things that Gaddafi was still involved in, but also just a past record of him being anti-imperialist and them seeing an opening to destroy him. Because I remember at that time, Gaddafi was complying with certain Western asks of him, right? Mm-hmm. He was in some ways kind of reconciling sort of his own sort of radicalism. And I agree with, there's also some comments about him being a little off, right? But he was sort of reconciling what he was doing and so forth, or measuring out more, maybe not being as radicalized as he was. And so he was actually in some ways willing to work with some Western interest at that time. But for them, for the Western interest, the bigger picture was who he was and potentially what he could do again. And because he wasn't under their complete control, which made him, and like you said, in a different but some similar ways, made him somewhat like a Saddam Hussein who was under Western control, right? And then had the nerve to go outside of that, but still they kept him as long as they wanted him, and then they decided to actually invade the whole country. And so the continued imperialist interest in the Middle East that have played out over the last 40 or 50 years, maybe a little longer than that, obviously always surrounded around resources and oil and control of land.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm just thinking of a story that Abdus told me about someone he met who was Libyan, who said, do you wonder why you never meet Libyans? I mean, because America is where immigrants come from all over the world, and honestly, having worked in the hotel industry, I've met a lot of different, people from different countries, and I honestly can say I've never met a Libyan, and neither had Abdus until this one time, and he said, "There's a reason why you've never met Libyans, probably, in most of your life, because we never had a reason to go anywhere under Saddam, under Gaddafi, because everything was provided for you. Your education was provided. When you got married, you were guaranteed a home. Healthcare was provided. When you had a baby, the state gave you money and made sure that everything we needed was in Libya until the U.S. deposed and assassinated, really, Muammar Gaddafi. I mean, so this just really has continues to have far-reaching implications, and not just for Libya, like you said, Kim, and Iraq, but the entire regions around these countries, because despite the contradictions, man, maybe not despite, but even including the contradictions that some of these leaders were, we can definitely argue about. But when they were in place, Gaddafi and Saddam, all of the factions in these regions knew that there was a line they could not cross with them. So there was more stability in the entire regions then than there is now, and that's also but by design. So I mean, yeah, thanks for that reminder, Kamal.
What about the issue regarding Gaddafi trying to nationalize some sort of, or rather continentalize some sort of African currency?
Mm-hmm.
That was legitimate. That
Oh,
was
that was
probably
absolutely true.
the catalyst for
Yes,
his removal,
that was
rather than
absolutely true.
the accusations of terrorism, etc. Because it's like,
Mhm.
well, they've been saying that Gaddafi blew up that Pan Am flight over Scotland, was
Lockerbie,
it?
yeah, Lockerbie.
Lockerbie, Scotland.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, well, y'all been talking about that for 30 years, but as soon as Gaddafi starts making some big rumblings about this gold standard currency for the continent of Africa, then actions were taken
Yeah.
to
That's remember,
actually go and
Gaddafi
invade.
was a Pan-Africanist, right? He was a
Mhm.
Pan-Africanist, and again, he came out of an anti-colonial framework and ideologically positioned himself as such. So he was part of a later generation, but he was part of a movement that believed in making sure that these countries were not dependent on the West, and use their resources, as Jackie was pointing out, use the resources of the country for needs of the people, which is what propelled a higher living standard for Libya than other places, right? And so again, with all the whatever detractions and negativity that you could say, one thing you have to point out again, at the time of his assassination, on the human index, on the living standard, Libya was number one in Africa.
Hmm.
Period. People lived longer, they had better lives, they had access to more resources, and these are not unique resources, obviously, just to Libya. Sort of oil may be unique in certain areas of Africa, but other areas of Africa have other resources that, if used for people as opposed for either Western interests or being stolen, could also produce higher living standards for Africans. But the West does not want that. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, you have African leaders who don't care about that.
Right. And I think it's important to point out that most of these African leaders that we're talking about, that they were that not only are they propped up by the imperialist powers of the U.S. and the European governments, but most of them are also educated in their educational systems. They were
Mhm.
either educated in France or the UK or the US. So these people have been, these African leaders are not, they're not the Gaddafis,
Yeah.
they're not the Thomas Sankaras, they're not the, no, they're the all of those folks were gotten rid of so that these current group of neoliberal, neo-colonial puppets could be put in place so that the imperialist powers could do what they want on the continent, because they get a piece of the action too. Not as big a piece as the people who are pulling the strings and the multinational corporations, but they get their cut.
Mm-hmm. What else we got going on in the news?
So I'm kind of torn, but since we did start with Libya, since you did start with Libya, I want to talk about Biden and his re what do I want to call it? He's re imagining
Huh?
the drone war.
Ah.
Yeah, rebranding. That's a good word for it.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Um
girl, because you see his domestic policy is falling apart. So it's about time for a Democrat to start a war.
right.
War is
And
coming.
That's
uh-huh.
true. That's true.
Yep. So there is this article in this publication called Responsible Statecraft, and it's called How Biden is Trying to Rebrand the Drone War. And there are some really interesting comments in this article, because the comments come from the people who are involved in crafting the policy for the drone war. So now the Biden administration is working on this thing, this policy that they're calling over the horizon strikes, that they say are going to solve all the problems of the terrorism that's metastasizing around the world, that is metastasizing because the United States has its 800 bases all over the place. And okay, but I'm supposed to be just delivering the news and not, giving a
That is
commentary
the
right
news.
now.
Becky, that is the news. That is absolutely the news. you're,
but
you're doing great, sweetie. Keep going.
but so experts in the field, defense experts, DOD officials, former Obama policy officials are calling foul on this idea that there's this new thing called over the horizon warfare or strikes, because they're saying that this idea that the Biden administration is peddling is innovative, but they're saying that it's effectively rebranding drone warfare that's been used for almost 20 years, and they name the places: Libya, Somalia, Yemen, and it's going to continue to fail like it has continued to fail. As a matter of fact, one comment from one person, Mark Garlasco, who served for 7 years at the Pentagon, including as chief of high value targeting during the Iraq War in 2013, said, "This idea that over the horizon strikes are going to solve all the problems is absolute horse shit."
That's in the document?
That's in the document.
Nice.
It's right there. Yes. Luke Hartig, who worked on drone strike policy for the Obama administration as a senior director for counterterrorism at the National Security Council, said, "I've been skeptical of over the horizon as the means to conduct counterterrorism strikes since it first started being discussed. I'm highly skeptical that maintaining a steady pace of counterterrorism operations, meaning mostly drone strikes against Al Qaeda and ISIS-K, is absolutely necessary to keep our country safe." Now, here's the guy who was involved in crafting the policy for the Obama administration that ramped up drone warfare, saying, now, I don't even think it's going to work to keep our country safe. It's ridiculous. We've been doing it for 20 years. We're rebranding it for something else. I don't think it's necessary to keep our country safe. There's a lot of other great information in this article where they point out the drone strike against the so-called ISIS-K target when the Biden administration pulled the troops out of Afghanistan, and how they, made such a big deal about how this was such a success. But the that drone strike was actually the first time in the 20-year occupation of Afghanistan where the U.S. had to apologize. Well, not had to, where they did apologize for making the mistake that they did. And the mistake was obviously killing 10 civilians, 7 of them children. So the last, I think, most important part of this piece, and the most important part of this program that the Biden administration is embarking upon, is that it is a continuation of both Obama administration policies regarding drone warfare and Trump administration policies. So this idea that Joseph Biden is better than Trump, we had to vote for, not we, because I didn't listen to y'all. I know people had to vote for Joseph Biden to get rid of Donald Trump, because Trump was the end of the world and Biden was so much better, and he was going to undo all the evil things Donald Trump did. Well, reports by the press and the NGOs indicate that the new authorization for the use of lethal force, also known as the Presidential Policy Memorandum, or PPP, will be an amalgam of Obama and Trump era policies. It will reportedly employ Obama-esque vetting of intelligence about terrorism suspects and centralized mechanisms, but in certain cases leave in place Trump-type country plans that provide ground commanders significant discretion to conduct strikes. So there's your boy, Build Back Better Biden, still dropping bombs on all the countries because he's so much better than Trump. There you go.
Girl, one of my friends has a brother that's in the military, and I was talking to him, and I was like, "How's your brother doing?" "Oh, he's down in Honduras." Fuck is he doing in Honduras? Like the U.S. military down in Honduras right now, y'all, in case you didn't know. But I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get off track.
No, I mean you got. I mean you got to think about the drone policy too within the context of how the U.S. even fights wars these days. I mean the U.S. is not. uh, Since World War II, the U.S. has not won an outright war, and that's because they are fighting people who are fighting for their lives, right? People who
Mhm.
are fighting for what they consider to be their land and their nation. And the United States can kill people, but the United States does not like to be killed. They're not like that. You know, they can't take people coming home in body bags, right? And that's a certain proper. You know, is part of the strategy of third world victories. When you think about Vietnam, they've always said like we don't have to defeat you militarily. We have to just win, have a standstill. And then your folks, because you're not fighting for your land, your folks will slowly but surely make you drag that back, right? But of course, that comes after millions and millions and millions of people have been killed. And so part of the substitute for large stopping large land invasions, right? And although it still happens in a couple of other places, but we saw how quickly they try to get the boots off the ground, has been this idea that they're going to do it through not only superior air power, of course, but through drone warfare, like a steady beat of drone warfare. So this is what they consider to be their tool in the tool belt. And you're right, because it's so, even if the drone strikes are accurate in terms of maybe hitting the targets they think they want to hit, they have no intelligence on the ground, right? And sometimes even if they do have intelligence on the ground, they don't care because some of it is to scare you
Hmm.
into submitting, right? So a lot of these deaths and killings, they're not accidents as they're proclaimed in the media. They're basically showing you what the power of the West has. But the power that the West does not have is that because they're not fighting for their land, people are there. The people are not. They're not there as like part time, like they're vacationing in the south of France and shit like that. Folks live in Iraq because that's where they live, and so they're going to continue. If they're going to create militias to get you out of their country, right? And whatever happens in their country happens. That's their thing. But they don't want you in there dropping drones and so forth. And the U.S. is continually trying to maintain, with all its bases around the world, trying to maintain that hegemonic power, which slowly but surely it is seeping away, right? I mean, it's probably going to be another 30 or 40, 50 years, but it is slowly but surely slipping away because other powers understand that there's other ways to fight U.S. imperialism, and that U.S. imperialism, again, as well as Western imperialism, can't stay too long on the ground these days. They just won't. So,
Hmm.
Where
Yeah.
where was Biden's most recent drone strikes? Was it Somalia? Was this like a couple of months ago?
Well, the most recent drone strike was in Afghanistan.
Oh, that's right.
After,
When they killed
yeah,
the
right,
family,
right.
the
But
people.
before that, it was Somalia. Yeah, which was very little reported in the news. But I like that we touch on these international stories and make the connections to domestic policy because see, we have to make uh, acronyms like AFRICOM, Southcom, and all of these commands. Um, a part of our regular lexicon when we are talking about war and policy in the United States because we can't talk about what's going on in Africa. We shouldn't ever talk about African leaders and US involvement on the continent without talking about AFRICOM. We should never talk about what the US is doing in Honduras and using that country as a staging ground for and a training ground for counter revolutionaries in the region without talking about Southcom. We should never talk about what's going on with the U.S. Being, meddling in the affairs of China in regard to Taiwan and other countries in the Philippines without talking about the command there. I mean, we need to make these connections between international policy, domestic policy, and the military commands that exist to carry them out a part of our regular conversation. This people are always talking about normalize this, that, and the third. Let's normalize talking about ending AFRICOM and SOUTHCOM and
mhm.
PACIFICOM and all these U.S. commands that are the controlling operations or the control centers for these 800 U.S. military bases around the world.
So on that note, let's take a quick break because I think we have a guest
Yeah.
coming in.
Yes.
Ear doctor, where you be?
Hey,
Come on, ear doctor, pop up.
What you doing? What you doing?
son.
You braids
Yo,
too tight? What?
I'm still in this barbershop waiting. Yo, man, stop talking and cut somebody's hair so I can get a haircut.
Haircut.
Where?
You know, I gotta get this, you know.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
Come on, man. Don't sleep. I got a little something under here. I'm playing. All right, let's get to it.
Remix.
What up? What up? What up? What's good, everybody? This is the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and as you can see, I am still stuck in this barbershop because somebody can't stop talking about the Lakers. Son, you don't play on the Lakers. Anyway, I wanted to talk. We still are here talking about music. So next thing we got to talking about is who is the top R&B pop females, ladies. That's right. Now we didn't say. As a matter of fact, from the last segment, I didn't mention my peoples right here. They definitely should have made the list, new edition. But we're talking about R&B pop. We're not talking about soul, because if we're talking about queen of R&B and soul, you already know who that is, Aretha. So let's start off. First, I would like to nominate into this category no other than my girl Mary J. Blige, who's came with 13 studio albums, 5 compilations, 2 live albums, and 83 singles. And y'all know Mary held it down for the 90s big time. Next, let's take it over to Mariah. That's right, Mariah, who is still the highest selling female artist. She has 15 studio albums, 8 compilations, 2 soundtracks, and 1 remix album. So you got to give it to Mariah for R&B pop on that. Next, let's go over to our sister, Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston, who has 7 studio albums, 6 compilations, 2 soundtracks, and 1 live. And next, who we going to go to, who held it down also in the 80s? No other than Janet Jackson. 11 studio albums, 3 compilations, 8 video albums, and 2 remixes. And the next sister I'm getting to, who's holding it down right now, who y'all might not like, but it is what it is. The Queen Bee, Beyonce. That's right. 6 studio albums, 5 live albums, 3 compilations, 1 soundtracks, and we ain't even gonna talk about the Destiny's Child stuff too. I'm just saying. Top R&B pop. That's my list. That's what it is. Let's get back to the show. You know how we do. All right.
I'm not mad at that list at all.
I am not mad at the list except for the first mention. Mary J. Blige is not R&B pop. Since when? I don't classify Mary as R&B pop. Everybody else fit, but Mary
R&B,
J.
hip hop, soul, pop. I mean, in the 90s, she was the most popular.
But not pop though. You know what I mean? Stations that were playing Whitney Houston weren't necessarily playing Mary J. Blige. Also, I'm talking about non-urban stations, right? And you know, because stations that would play Whitney and Mariah and Beyonce, chances are they weren't playing Mary J. Blige. Also,
Okay, who would you put in that slot, Kim?
let's see. In terms of pop, like R&B pop, that's a really good question. Who would I?
Mary
put?
J. Thank you.
No, Mary J does not belong there. I'll try to tell you she does not. I mean, I'm thinking of somebody good. I mean, maybe even like Aaliyah might even suit that more so than Mary J. Blige, in my opinion.
But top 5? Not top 5.
I hate Mariah Carey.
Oh, not hate.
Mariah Carey.
Yeah, I'm with
What
you.
did Mariah do?
I mean, Mariah, come on now. She got music. She got
Smart voice.
that Me album. Come on
That
now.
Christmas song.
See.
But again, that's Mariah getting her white folks money. I'm not mad at the Christmas
That's
song,
that
okay?
pop money.
That's that white folks money.
Somebody mentioned Rihanna. Rihanna's got to be in
Boom,
top.
boom,
Ah,
boom.
Rihanna. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Riri.
All praise. You're right. We taking Mary off and we put Rihanna up there.
Yes.
Riri.
That's what it is.
All right.
Thank you
Okay.
all. Thank
Okay.
you.
I'll tolerate
And listen,
Mariah
we
for that.
We're going to
All
get to
right.
soul next. So, you know, we're going to get to that next. So,
Hey,
Ain't no telling who gonna be in that category. You
Ricky
probably gonna
told me
put
to take my hate. Ricky told me to take my hate of Mariah Carey up with Jesus. Okay.
girl. I mean, I'm saying Mariah had me at Vision of Love, baby. I've been on the Mariah. I've been a
I
lamb since
guess.
'90.
Jackie.
I guess. Ah,
Nah. Mm.
nobody's
Ah,
But
perfect.
more importantly, we have a special guest coming up.
Very, very special. I'm
Yes,
so excited and honored about this. So let's get to it.
do it.
Well, folks, I am absolutely honored to be able to sit down and have this conversation today with someone who I just absolutely respect and am very, very blessed to be able to talk to. And I want to introduce to some who do not know and present to others who do, Brother Jaleel Muntakim, who is an activist, former political prisoner, and Black Panther, and author of We Are Our Own Liberators. Brother Jaleel Muntakim, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it so much.
Assalamu alaikum. It's my pleasure to be here with you. Thank
Walaikum
you, good sister.
assalam, my brother. So, what have you been up to? Something momentous just happened over the past weekend, and it is very important to the struggle of political prisoners in this country, and also in an international sense. So, what happened? What have you been involved in? And what was the outcome of this a monumental event?
Yeah. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with your audience. 2018, I was locked up in solitary confinement at Southport Correctional Facility for having taught a class at Alka Correctional Facility that they felt that would not be taught. They essentially, I was teaching a history class. I went from 1861 to 2000, 1861 to 1966. At that time, at 1966, you had to talk about the Black Panther Party, we talk about history. And so I started teaching these history classes to these young gangbangers, Bloods, Crips, etc. And they felt that we should not be teaching the Black Panther Party code of ethics, and so they put me in solitary confinement for 4 months. While in solitary confinement, I decided to develop a proposal for having international jurors come to the United States. Once again, it came in 1981, and so we have them brought back again to deal with the issues of political prisoners and human rights of Black, Brown, and Indigenous people. That was in 2018. I sent it to my comrades, particularly Jihad Abdul Muhammad and Sekou Odinga for the Jericho movement and for the Northeast Political Prisoners Coalition. And they each agreed to work on this campaign. And so last week, October 22nd to the 25th, 2021, the international jurors came to the United States. We had it held at International Tribunal. International Tribunal was held at the Malcolm X Betty Shabazz Memorial Center in Harlem, the old Audubon Room, Rebrand Audubon Room Center. And we had 9 international jurors from around the world here to discuss the issues of Ashley Gant. Excuse me.
No worries.
Okay. Talking about the issues of human rights violations of Black, Brown, and Indigenous people, and they agreed with us on the issues of raising the question of genocides. That the United States has been engaged in a process, right, a 400-year process of genocides against Black, Brown, and Indigenous people. The United States, based upon the international jurors listening to the testimonies, reading the documents, our esteemed attorney, Nikichi Taifa, brought the charges brought the case to the international jurors, and as a result of our case being brought to them, they decided, the international jurors decided, the United States is guilty of commission and the practice, the horror of committing genocide against Black, Brown, and Indigenous people. Now, I'm going to take this point. This is not the first time the issue of charge of genocide was brought to the United Nations. It was once done so on December 17th, 1951, by the great Paul Robeson
Right.
and William Patterson. However, 70 years later, what we were able to do is get a guilty verdict, something that they were not able to do. So we accomplished what William Patterson and the great Paul Robeson attempted to do in 1951. Actually, it was 2 months after my birth. And so 70 years later, here we are today. We have got a guilty. And so it's extremely important. Extremely important. Now, let me just read what the charges were.
Please.
Racist police killing of Black, Brown, and Indigenous people. 2, hyper incarceration of Black, Brown, and Indigenous people, including the constitutionally affirmed legal slavery. Right? As we all know, that slavery in the United States has not been abolished, has been institutionalized in the penal system based upon the 15th Amendment of the United States Constitution that reads in part, slavery and voluntary service should not exist in the United States except, exception clause, except for those who have been duly convicted of a crime. Right? And so, third, political incarceration of civil rights and the national liberation era revolutionary, particularly our political prisoners, and demanding their release from prison. 4, environmental racism and the impact on Black, Brown, and Indigenous people. Well, many of you know that many of our people live in areas that are polluted. The land is polluted, the air is polluted, the water is polluted. And we know what happened in Michigan with the water situation. We know what happened with Katrina in that environmental situation, and various other places where our kids are suffering from asthma and all kinds of other illness because of the corporate pollution in the areas from which many of us, Black, Brown, and Indigenous people live. And so that is a public health issue. Third is public health, racism, and disparities, and traumatic impact of Black, Brown, and Indigenous people. Why? Because of the mortality division, mortality rate between Black people, white people, and Black people, Brown, and Indigenous people. The mortality rate indicates something. It indicates something in terms of what is institutionally established in regards to white supremacy and how we are permitted to live in this corporate government, and while other people, particularly white people, through white skin privilege and every means of white supremacy, are able to live a lot better. And then lastly, the cumulative effect of all these issues for which these international jurors have found them guilty of amounts to in every considerable part of genocides. And so we have raised these issues. We successfully raised these issues. We had over 30 people testified, right, at the International Tribunal. And we had volumes of documentation in support of our positions on each of those particular charges. And the international jurors found the United States guilty of genocide against Black, Brown, and Indigenous people. So,
no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so our task now is to ensure that the general public, particularly Black, Brown, and Indigenous community, here nationally and internationally, is aware that the United States is guilty of genocide. All right, and it's important for us to create the new narrative. When we cry about international human rights, right? And we talk about human rights, we have to apply those rights, have to apply those conditions to us, to our situation here in the United States. This is what El Haj Malik Shabazz, Malcolm X, had demanded of us. He instructed us to take our struggle out of the civil rights realm and the confines of civil rights here in the United States and bring our struggle into the international community and bring our issues to human rights. It's a human rights issue. It's a right for us to survive in this nation. And as you well know, what happened on January 6th, right, when white supremacists stormed Congress, we know that if those Black, Brown, or Indigenous people doing that, they've been mowed down. There have been bodies all over the Congressional Plaza. No doubt about that. So why didn't they do that to these white folks? Because the idea of white supremacy is part of what the system believes in. All right? They don't particularly care for white folks to charge the Congress, right? To run up in Congress. However, they got no problems in terms of what they run up in Congress about, what they run up in Congress for. you know what I mean, to maintain the system of white supremacy. And so for us, it's extremely important for Black, brown, indigenous people, right, and Asian people to recognize that we are living in, no doubts about this, let's keep this completely clear, we're living in a white supremacist country, all right? It's codified, institutional racism, white supremacy. And so for us, we have to make a decision on how we're going to create a new narrative in regards to what our struggle is about. And if we say our struggle is about human rights, then we need to evolve our own understanding of our terms of politics, divorcing itself from a system of white supremacy. Divorcing it's our struggle away from the system of white supremacy. Unfortunately, of course, right, we have those assimilationists and integrationists who feels that they cannot live without being around and supported by white people, right, the white supremacists, right? No matter what neoliberal ideological foundation they allege to be in support of the improvement and prosperity of Black, brown, and indigenous people, we know that that's a lie. Okay, and so in our instance, in our struggle, we're moving forward to promote the idea that we are our own liberators. Okay, and we're pushing this idea forward under the rubric of the auspices of this decision made by the international jurors that we are fighting against genocide. We're fighting to preserve our own existence in this territory, 3,000 by 2,000 mile territory that they identified as the United States. All right, and so that's our goal and objective. And we need to ensure that every Black newspaper, every Black radio station, every Black TV program, right, every Black podcast, right, explain to our public, to our world, what this means in terms of the international jurors finding the United States guilty of genocide against Black, brown, and indigenous people. If they fail to do that, then they know that they are not working in the best interest of Black people. Right? They keep Black people in the dark. All right, and that's unacceptable, straight across the board.
You know, Brother Muntakim, a couple of things. I want to point out the jurists who heard the case and came to this decision, and the fact that the majority of them women from the global south. They were truly an international panel that was led by, as you said, in Kiche Taifa. The jurists were from India, Eritrea, Haiti, France, Puerto Rico, the U.S., and elsewhere. They included a South African former member of parliament, a board member of the Nobel Peace Laureate Organization, a Puerto Rican legal scholar who serves as an expert for the UN Committee on Decolonization. So this was not, I just wanted to point that out, that this is the caliber of people who were on the panel of jurists. This was not just, a bunch of folks that were thrown together. These were people who are international experts on legal affairs, on human rights affairs, and even experts who advise the United Nations. So this was a very serious matter. That's the first point I want to make. The second point, and it's a question I want to pose to you that I know some of our folks are going to ask. What's the point of this? Why do this? Because it's like asking it's like someone who is being kidnapped, who's been kidnapped, asking the kidnapper for better treatment. What was the point of this if we know that this system is not going to give us our freedom? We're going to have to struggle for it. What do we do with this information? Why was this important to do?
Very, very important. I appreciate the question. First of all, yes, we have a very esteemed international panel of jurors, and their word and their decision will be recognized by members of the United Nations and various international bodies, and understanding our solidarity, our international solidarity with our struggle and the struggles of other peoples around the world. That was very important. Second of all, in terms of our moving forward, once we have gained the world's attention about what it is going on in this country amongst us, right? We see Black Lives Matters, the trend of Black Lives Matter traversed the entire world, where you had people in Germany talking about Black Lives Matter. People in China talking about Black Lives Matter. Well, now we have to understand how and why this matters, right? Why that even that idea had to be put out there, and because we are suffering through the course of genocide. Our next move, of course, will be moving towards filing a civil action, federal court, civil action to ensure that the United States respond to the charge of genocide. Why? Because the United States has has signed onto the Genocide Convention, right? And therefore, by signing onto the Genocide Convention under 18 USC 1091, right, which is genocide rule, genocide law here in the United States, what they are violating of. They have violated, right? And so we are bringing the issue, moving it forward in regards to the Finland's civil rights complaint of charges of violation of their own laws, genocide laws against Black, Brown, and Indigenous people. And we're going to build a campaign across the country with international support. We're going to be having amicus curiae briefs filed in support of our petition, both from the international community as well as from esteemed organizations and individuals here in the United States that will very much support the idea of how the United States is engaging in genocidal practices. All right, what impact it has on our community. I just give you one example. Right, in the last 50 years, the Black population in the United States has not grown beyond 13%.
That's right.
Right, 11 to 13% in the last 50 years. Right, why? Why is that? Why we as a population has not grown? Right, due to the fact that the mortality rate, they're killing us. They put in mass incarceration. We suffer from all types of illnesses. Our mortality rate is lower than most other people in this country. That's a problem. All right, and so we need to have our people understand the depth of white supremacy and its impact on our lives, like collectively. And so we followed this lawsuit, and we're going to build a campaign in support of the lawsuit, and we're going to create a new narrative in regards to our working towards our own liberation, right? As opposed to becoming part of the corporate Democratic and Republican Party, right? We have to understand another point in regards to the United States government. The United States government, according to 28 USC 3002, is a federal corporation, right? If you go through that law and read that law, it states emphatically the United States is a federal corporation. So what has the American people has done? They have pledged allegiance to a corporation. And this is why profits is greater than people, right? Because it operates as a business, right? And therefore the general population is no more than what? Wage laborers for the profits of the corporation. Now, let me make this other point, right? There are 544 billionaires in the United States that control $2.6999 trillion. All the wealth of Western Europe, right? 544 people in the United States control all the wealth. That means that and about approximately 28,000 families in a population of 330 million people. We are permitting 544 people to control the wealth of the United States, right? And here we are fighting over the crumbs. That is something historically wrong. That's the way I can put it. Right, historically wrong, egregious to our common humanity that we're permitting these 544 people, families, 28,000 families, to control the wealth of this country, hoarding the wealth of this country. Right, we have to change this. We have to change that dynamic. All right, and this is what part of the process of changing that dynamic, building a new narrative. What does it mean to be governed? All right. All right, and how do we govern ourselves? They say for the people and by the people. That's what they said, right? But the reality is, it's for the corporations, by the corporations, because the United States is a corporation, all right? And so, if I give you another example, the United States Supreme Court made a ruling in a case called Hobby Lobby, right? And in that ruling, they determined that the corporation is a people, right? It's a person. All right, so when we talk about a people and the whole idea of between a sentient human being and the corporation, we find that the corporation trumps the sentient human beings on all levels across the board. All right, that's the capitalist system itself. The system has to go down. It's always that's all matter to it. The system is corrupt, right? It harms people. I'll give you one more example, and then I'm gonna let this thing go. Dr. Martin Luther King. I'm sorry, I just got so much.
No,
Okay,
this is
all right,
important, and,
all right.
but
Dr.
we
Martin
do have
Luther
a little
King.
we have a little time crunch.
Okay, very good. Dr. Martin Luther King, who is who they had made into a national hero and had a national holiday made in his name. He once said that the United States is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. Not my words. These are Dr. King's words. These are the words that you have allowed to have a national holiday for. All right. And so, what does that mean? That means that the United States have been engaged in violence around the world consistently, right? And we, and I say we, people of the United States, right, in this territory, have been complicit
Yeah.
in the harm that's been done to people around the world, all right, for the greed of the corporation, right? Their excursions to profit, to colonize, to neo-colonize, to rape other countries, right? We've been complicit. We have allowed this to happen, right? And so the people of the world is looking at us, trying to understand what are we doing, right? How are we serving our best interest in terms of our common humanity? And we are failing across the board. And so we said there needs to be a new narrative in regards to our relationship to one another and our relationship to the world at large, people of the world at large. Okay, so this charge, this founding of guilt of genocide sets the foundation for us to change the entire narrative in regards to our struggle and our building towards our own national liberation and independence.
That is absolutely true, and we'll continue to watch the developments. But what we need to do with this information now is to organize around it, because that's our responsibility with it. We have to socialize it. We have to broadcast it. This is what we're doing today, and I want to thank you so much, Brother Jalil Muntakim, for joining us this morning, early this morning, to talk about this very important issue. So now we've got to take this information, organize.
Okay.
Brother Jalil Muntakim, thank you so much. Peace, my brother, and hope to talk to you again very, very soon.
Thank you, my sister. All power to the people.
What's happening? That was heavy duty. It looked like everybody's muted.
Yeah, great interview. No, I was muted saying great interview. It's like my third time today being muted when I was trying to talk.
That's wow. I want to first off, greetings, good people. Kalanji's in the building. Yes, but anyway, I want to, when it comes to Jalil Muntakim, for folks who are unaware, you're talking about a man who did 49 years on lock. You know what I'm saying? A veteran Panther, veteran BLA member, 49 years, and he's been out just probably short of a year, if not a year, at this particular point. After 49 years, you know what I mean? So, we definitely owe him all the time in the world when it comes to him rapping. Hit the ground running. You know what I mean? They tried to block him from getting out. A black Attorney General up there, Letitia, I can't think of her name, up in New York, was the last.
James.
Yeah, Letitia James with her low down ass tried to stop the brother from getting out. I believe Jalil's close to 70 right now. One of the most important books that you can read if you're talking about our people's liberation struggle is We Are Our Own Liberators. We Are Our Own Liberators by Jalil Muntakim. Folks like Kamal and I, to us, Jalil was legendary, and he's still legendary. You know what I mean? And, I remember reading his book back in the day, and when you talk about organizing, it's a must-have if you're serious about revolution here in America and abroad.
Jalil remained active in prison all those years, never gave up, ideologically speaking, strength-wise. Got to know him when he was inside by again doing visits in New York because he was locked down in New York, of course. So yeah, it's so happy to see him continually to do the work that he's been doing. So yeah, all big ups.
No doubt.
What we got coming up, brother?
Hey man, look here, man. The people who saying, look, man, y'all been bringing some heavy duty stuff on here. You got folks from Move, you got folks on the BLA, from the Black Panther Party, from the Young Lords. You know what I'm saying? But we need healing. The world is sick. We need therapy. You know what I mean? So I reached inside the barrel of time, and I said, who can we grab that can shake shit up a little bit, and also let you know that being healthy, physically, mentally, and spiritually, don't make you a punk, because oftentimes folks confuse it. They think that, you have to either be so rigid that you that you lack compassion, or you have to be so soft that everything's just give thanks. Anyway, I ain't trying to diss nobody. Anyway, coming to the to the platform today for the first time on the Remix Morning Show, I'll be bringing you Adama Alaji. We'll be right at you in a few ticks. Remix Morning Show. Greetings. How you doing, Madama? How's everything?
I'm absolutely wonderful. How are you?
Man, I feel good now that you inside the joint.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, now that Houdini's inside the joint. So yeah, definitely happy to have you on point with us. For folks who are unaware, Madama has been she's been a strict vegetarian for the last 42 years plus. She was an air shifter here in Atlanta, WRFG in Atlanta,
89.3.
I'm violating. They're gonna 89.3 here in Atlanta. And she's also the founder and director of Mother Earth's Blessing Holistic Life Center. You know what I mean? And welcome. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling really, really blessed and supremely honored to be the one that I am, the voice of our liberation, heraldess of the eternal, and consciously calling us to remember that we were given instruction. And that instruction is, thou shalt love thy mother, father, creator, God, thy Lord, with your whole body, heart, mind, with all of your might. That don't mean love your cigarettes more than you love your lungs. Love your liquor more than you love your bloodstream. You understand? So the issues that we're bringing forward and that I have been speaking to over the last 40 some years, but the last 22 years on WRFG, as well as BBS Radio, has been carrying my messaging for the last 11 years or so. But the issue for us is realizing, one, we are dwelling in the realm of eternity. We've come from another realm of eternity to the earth, which is immersed in nothing but eternity. There are cosmic laws, universal laws, eternal laws that we have never been socialized to understand or respect. And so the issue for us is realizing we did not come up out the earth. We came to the earth through the wombs of our mothers, sparked by the divine sacred fluid from our fathers. But then we have no orientation about the divinity and the sacredness of existence.
Wow. Hey man, listen, you come out the gate swinging, you know what I mean? And that's a beautiful thing. From a physical, mental, and spiritual perspective, where are we now?
We're in a place where we're being called to rise. I've been speaking to the issues of our liberation, our salvation, our deliverance, the prerequisites for our being qualified for continuance in existence over the last 22 years on air. Now, as a result of the pushing of the envelope, the escalation of the global initiative that is genocide and depopulation, then we have to realize that we are in the harvest. So those ones who have sown the seeds of sickness, illness, disease, and death as popular and common activity, collective learning and education, and the path of prosperity, there's a harvest of sickness, illness, disease, and death. There has been a pandemic that has been in full effect for generations that looks like abortion being the #1 killer of us as a people. It looks like heart attacks, strokes, cancer, diabetes, obesity, all of these things that affect us at a disproportionate percentage of us, but it affects absolutely everyone, regardless of how Black or how light you are. We are and have been socialized by a death culture. All right. It's a global initiative. And this is why I changed my diet as a junior at the University of Florida in the mid 70s or later 70s to really come to a point of creating a personal economic boycott, because I realized that once I got into my sociology courses, I was a psychology major, University of Florida in mid 70s. Blacks didn't start going to University of Florida till 72. I was admitted in the class of 1975. All right, my junior year, the sociology statistics were running like 20,000 Black Americans are dying every year from sugar diabetes, another 15,000 are dying every year from complications from obesity, another 12,000 from cancer of the lung, another 8,000 from cancer of the pancreas, another 6,000 from cancer of this. My head begins to spin. And then I begin to really question what's the cause, what's the cure. They say, oh, we don't know the cause, we don't know the cure. But because of affirmative action, you're both Black and female, you can get paid for doing the research. And of course, we can show you how to slant your study to prove whatever it is you're hypothesizing. And based upon the applicability of that, your research, your studies, your fabrications, then you can continue to get paid. And this is when I went directly to God, because I realized, one, is that we were told to get our education. That our education would allow us to bring ourselves up from the being the descendants or ascendants of enslavement. Right? We were told to have Jesus. We were told to get good jobs. We were told a lot of things, but the issue is this, is that if our education has not provided us the wherewithal to understand how to really live for greater longevity, but also greater potency, power, and the ability to respond correctly and directly in any now moment, in exalting a full effort in our living, which is what we as men, the progenitor of lineages, and we as wombed men, as perpetuator of lineages, are here to be the perpetuators of our lineages. Because from the time we were typed female and male in our mother's wombs, we were destined to become men and women. Mothers and fathers, grandmothers and grandfathers, great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers, great-great-great-grandmothers and great-great-great-grandfathers, great-great-great-great, and all of that. But we have denied greatness because we refuse to accept the perfect and divine design of our body temples. And we have been fed the flesh of dead animals, the aborted fetuses of chickens, the pus and mucus of cows, artificial colors, artificial flavors, NutraSweet, and all of these this garbage that has laid the foundation for the sickness, the illness, and disease. And it has affected everybody, the judges, the lawyers, the police officers, everybody's mama. And the issue is that when the consciousness of a woman is being called to remember that we set the precedent for the consciousness and the perpetuation of generations of people. So the violation, the subjugation, the domination, the rape, and the violation of womanhood is really the foundation of our subjugation across the planet. Now, that lie that they call white supremacy is just stupidity, insecurity, and on crack. You understand? There is no such thing as white supremacy. There's no supremacy in being murderers, liars, thieves, bastardizers, subjugators. You understand? Let's really get real clear. There is absolute law that governs our lives. And when we care to be completely cleared, cleansed, purified from being in violation of that law, which the fulfillment of the law is absolute love, which means that love is the harmony of truth. And the truth is that we all dwell in the reality of an absolute and supreme intelligence by virtue of this absolute and supreme intelligence that is beating our hearts and breathing us. It is the eye that sees through every eye. So Black lives couldn't possibly matter if the chicken's life don't matter, if the cow's life don't matter, if you understand. So we're having to realize that, one, Christianity, Islam, the religions have really signed off on us feeling entitled to subjugate and dominate the lives of other beings and then feed off their carcasses, their fetuses. This is what's creating the foundation of all of our disease. So in order for us to really clear, cleanse, purify, we got to stop supporting the death industries. We have to stop working for these people. We have to stop feeding from these things so that our bodies, divinely and perfectly designed, have the opportunity to clear and cleanse, because we are first and foremost breatharian. Everybody has to breathe. Breath is the animating, maintaining, and sustaining force of our existence. Our bodies are 80% water, like the earth is 80% water. Water is a medium of intelligence. It holds frequency, vibration, thoughts, and all of what we charge upon it. But when the body and the cells are oppressed, see, the methodology of oppression is to oppress us at our cellular functioning. So the methodology of our liberation has to happen at the cellular level. It is not going to happen by appealing to those who have already been qualified for being discontinued in existence. It's not going to happen as a result of voting and all of these things. It's going to happen as a result of each of us consciously caring to consecrate our body temples through purification, renewal, revitalization, and consciously caring to live to be a glory and an honor to that which beats our hearts and breathes us. This puts us in a place and space where we get beyond all of the divisiveness. See, we're under a divide and conquer frequency. You understand? But as individuals, individuations of the presence of an absolute and supreme intelligence, when we are divided within ourselves, when we are a detriment to ourselves, where we are, wherever we are, then we are vulnerable to the onslaught and the assault that we are experiencing that's creating all this cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and this and that. So people are just getting serious about the conversation about the genocide and whatnot over the last several years, but we are complicit with our own genocide because we feed off of death. That which we do unto others shall be done unto us. Now we're in the harvest. So if we will shift, it will be by virtue of us taking the time, each one of us, wherever we are, to acknowledge that we're perfectly and divinely designed. There is an absolute and supreme intelligence that animates us, that is the source of all being, that the earth is as big as a period at the end of a sentence in relationship to the eternity that we're already in.
Man, I think you should add MC to one of your titles because of the fact that your rap game, they ain't messing with you. I'll just say that. You know what I'm saying? Real quick, like 3 steps. You know what I mean? You saying that you know, the harvest of death has come upon us, right? 3 steps to get us on the right side of the barricade, spiritually, physically, mentally. What would you say the first 3 things?
You got to make commitments. You understand? See, at 20, when I realized that the only thing that I was really being educated for is to work a job for the next 40, 50 years of my life, trade men like you trade shoes and birth other ones that come into the world to serve the devil and the devil's purposes, meat, dairy, eggs, chicken, fish, alcohol, tobacco, sugar. You understand? So no, I made commitments. Let me live to make a difference in this world, or let me not live at all. But I refuse to be a slave. And so we're having to get to that point where every atom and every cell of our being is completely charged in an overwhelming commitment to life itself. Not to your appetites and your desires and your passions and your lusts, but to be free so that the intelligence of your being, that which is the presence of God, has been re-enthroned in its temple because you are committed to the clearing, the cleansing, the purification, and the consecration for the re-enthronement of the true spirits of the living gods in our temples. See, we were told when we were coming up, salvation comes through the blood of Christ. Some people say, oh, I've been saved through the blood of Jesus. And I'm saying, no, it ain't about drinking the blood on first Sundays. It's about creating the blood of Christ. We're talking about a bloodstream that bears no violation of violated beings, no inebriants, no intoxicants, no artificial colors and flavors and behavior modifying substances. See, this is what the Germans have contributed, in that all of this stuff that they call food that can sit on shelves and in cans indefinitely does not provide any optimum cellular functioning for our brain, for any part of our bodies. We have yet to see what liberation really looks like in people. What we've seen is proficiency. We've seen people become proficient. Proficiency will get you lauded and applauded. It'll get you paid, but it does not ensure that you walk the face of this earth as a conscious immortal. So the commitment, and then the cleansing fruit and vegetation, the herbs. Mother Earth's blessing is the clay. The clay is found deep within the earth, deeper within the earth than the roots of the fruit trees, the arugula, the kale, or anything else. The clay is the natural detoxifier, which is why we craved it. Every indigenous, aboriginal, and native people deal with clay. Clay is the only thing that really offsets that bacterial rotting disease and whatnot. So when we eat flesh, we cannot digest flesh. Flesh has to rot in the body. That decay and decomposition, and proliferation of worms, organisms, parasites, and whatnot, eating you alive. I'm just saying, the clay is simple. We're cleansing with it. We're drinking it. We're doing enemas with it. We're douching with it. We're getting these chemicals. It's magnetic, so it's getting the chemicals out. So how do we know we're under chemical assault? Because we are unable to respond correctly and directly to being warred against. Every other intelligence, the rat, the cat, the dog, the whale, everything responds in its life, in exalting a full effort in its living. It knows its food, it excretes its waste, it knows its kind, it mates, it perpetuates itself, and it has a natural way of trying to protect or defend itself and its life when it senses that it is being threatened. We have become complicit and complacent. So the commitment, the cleansing, and the consecration.
You know, it's, and I appreciate that. I think that one of the things we talk about revolution, and I think that you know, some of what you said, commitment. For one, it's much easier for us to talk about what's going on outside. It's much easier for us to make a commitment to say, I'm going to study and I'm going to, you know, get my word game down pat, or I'm going to go march, or I'm going to do whatever. But I think that the first discipline absolutely begins with self. You
Absolutely.
know what I mean? And as Imam Jamil Alameen, formerly H. Rap Brown, would say, if you can't beat yourself, you can't beat nobody else. Everybody can fight, but everybody can't win. You know what I'm saying? I think that, you know, for folks who have not chosen a vegetarian lifestyle, and for me, let the record reflect, you know, pardon my English, but what you eat don't make me shit. But at the same time, you know, like they say, if you can't control what you put in your mouth, you can't control what comes out your mouth. If you can't control yourself, you know what I'm saying? How do you expect to govern the people? You know, so I want to point that out, because oftentimes, you know, folks who lack discipline, you know, it is an automatic rejection when it comes to you saying, look, well, I'm not going to eat this, I'm not going to smoke this, I'm not going to drink that. Then it automatically means like, oh, well, I'm going to eat my pork chop, or I'm going, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, we talk about, you know, the enemy having discipline. You know, what do you, how does this, you know, when you're talking about, you know, the food,
that
yeah,
that they call food
right,
is oppression. You
okay.
understand? So that's what I'm saying, is that we're breatharian first.
How does it affect the environment? Because of the fact that, you know, we talk about the ozone, we talk about the Amazon. How does like this breeding of animals to eat, and how does that affect the
well, the issue is this, is that the primary law of existence is thou shalt not kill. And people want to justify and qualify what that actually means. And I'm saying there's only one absolute and supreme intelligence that animates absolutely everything and everybody. It is so intelligent, so beloved, so gifted, that it has gifted itself to absolutely everything and everyone everywhere. So we are complicit and complacent with the oppression of ourselves, but also with the violation of other beings and the subjugation and domination of Mother Earth and Mother Nature. All right. The issue for us is realizing, one, there is a direct connect and link to who we are upon the planet to the planet. So when we eat plants, you understand, when we are dealing with produce, then we can be productive. The issue is having optimum nutrition. You understand that? But when a people take over another people, they do not have the people's optimum cellular functioning at heart.
right?
Right. We don't have our own optimum cellular functioning at heart. It's like, give the niggas this and get back to work. You understand? Well,
chitlins.
I'm just going to eat this and get back to work. But food has been weaponized. Food is the tool of oppression. And then the weapons of mass destruction are the tobacco, the alcohol, the white sugar, and the pharmaceuticals at this particular point in time. All of the chemicals in and of themselves, these people cannot create from something other than the intelligence that was already there. But the intelligence that we each are in our body temples comes into a place and space of authority over situations and circumstances when we consciously care to acknowledge the divinity of our being and dwell within the conscious mindfulness of the divinity of all being, so that we would have the opportunity where love, the harmony of the truth, of the beauty and the blessedness and the intelligence of existence, we could help regenerate everything just by being cleared, cleansed, purified, renewed, rebirthed, regenerated, rejuvenated, and step into the God and goddesshood that is our absolute truth. There's nothing but intelligence of existence. So we don't have to worry about saving the earth. The issue is we're in the exodus. All of those who love death and are the perpetuators of death, the managers of death and whatnot, then death is here. It's coming. You understand? But the issue is that in the realm of eternity, how long will you be dead?
Right.
You understand? Go ahead.
And you know, we're pressed for time, but I just want to say two things. One, you know, the argument. Well, for one, I would say that you know, I was just thinking a few days ago. I'm like, wow, you know, here it is. You know, these folks come in with this plantation poison, right? They come in besides what's considered food, quote unquote, right? Just dope and crack and all of this. It's like, okay, boom, let's give this to these niggas and have them kill each other. And while they're killing each other, make them think that they're advancing by giving them a few trinkets, some money, some jewelry, so on and so forth. And we've accepted it. And it's the same thing with food. You look at some of these food deserts, you know what I'm saying? And you see yellow number 5 and red 40 and all this type stuff. You have juices that don't contain any fruit at all.
Fruit,
right. But they call it juice. You have all of this stuff that is approved by the FDA. And I think that, you know, the argument becomes, well, you know, our ancestors ate meat and, you know, so on and so forth. How do you respond to that? You know, we got about 2 minutes, but
the issue for us is this. It's a do or die kind of time for us, for everybody. The Mother Earth, Mother Nature, and the billions of creatures whose blood has been spilled upon this planet, they deserve their liberation. And the liberation that they're deserving is get the people off the freaking planet. You understand? Those who do not care to live, those who do not care to exalt a full effort in their living. But we have to come to a point in place where those of us who do care, those of us who have our children, you know, consciously caring to walk in the light of the truth, then it's time for us to initiate a boycott of the death industries. The meat, the dairy, the eggs, the chicken, the fish, the alcohol, tobacco, and sugar. We bring none of it into our body temples, and we clear and cleanse ourselves so that we are literally creating the blood of Christ, a bloodstream that bears no violation of violated beings, no inebriants, no intoxicants, and all of that. And because the consistency of oxygenating, hydrating, mineralizing the herbs, you understand, the fresh fruit and vegetation, we can create whatever we will. We live in the infinity of possibilities, but you cannot serve death and have the fullness of life. You cannot love to feed off the carcasses of dead animals and have the fullness of life. We're not here to die. We're not here to exalt our right to be wrong or the free will to be enslaved to whatever appetite, desire. We're here to walk in the glory of the truth of the ones that we are as these living, loving, intelligent, potent, and immortal points of an absolute and supreme intelligence. We're in the school of earth residency. You'll either learn to live and leave, or you will die and be buried here. But we're not born to die.
We appreciate you coming on, joining us this morning. We'll have you back. Definitely stay on point. You know,
very good.
And in our next piece, we'll break down what you mean when you talk about blood of Christ, because of the fact that I think that you know, folks are looking at it from a literal religious perspective, and would love for you to break that down. But we're pressed for time right now, so definitely, be safe out there, and we'll see you
Thank you.
soon. No
All right,
doubt.
bless you. Appreciate
Yes,
you.
ma'am. You too.
Enjoy.
Checking out Remix Morning Show. We're gonna be back at you in a few ticks. Yes. Black Power.
All right.
Yes, Remix Morning Show in the building. Definitely appreciate Mama Dama coming on and joining along with man Jalil Muntakim. I think that I think that oftentimes what we have to do is, with anything, and we talk about politics, we talk about nationalism, we talk about just revolution as a whole. It is a protracted struggle. You know what I'm saying? And you have to take those things that best apply to you, that will make you whole, that will make you operate in a way that is not violating other individuals. You know what I'm saying? Because of the fact we talk about liberation, and it only applies to our own narrow definition. So just wanted to point that out, push that real quick.
She was like in a rap battle. I mean, she was dropping that shit fast.
Yeah, she
I will
definitely
say
was
though that
MC.
there will, on my watch there will be some dead chickens. So
we already know you.
putting it out
You know
there.
what I'm saying? You pro.
Yeah,
we
I
had a great.
all that.
I agree. I agree with about 90% of what Sis had to say, and I think it was Carpe Diem in the comments who said, I mean, you can be vegan and you can try to live as much of a clean lifestyle all you want, but if you live in Flint, Michigan, or if you live in Benton Harbor, Michigan, and your water is poisoned already, how you can't out healthy or out diet your already poisoned environmental conditions. So I think we can do what we can do from the position and the point that we are at. But from a conversation that we heard earlier in the week about schooling, when it comes to food and diet and nutrition, there's a lot of unlearning that people have to do. And a lot of us aren't, that's not part of our foundation, right? We're brought up in this American diet of meat, of processed food, of dairy, etc. And you have to know better in order to do better. So I don't think we should be too hard on people because of the dietary choices that they make, because sometimes people are eating what's available. Sometimes diet, food can be a form of, self-medicating your trauma, as is alcohol and tobacco. And again, I'm not agreeing that people should do these things, but there are reasons why people do these things that are just not as simple as it's a choice, right? There's a lot of other factors that go into why people consume the things that they do.
And to that point, I want to say too, because of the fact that oftentimes we talk about what we don't have. We start with what we do have. You know what I'm saying? When you talk about guerrilla warfare, you might come in the area with nothing. You know what I'm saying? But how do you live off the land? How do you live off of the things you have? Real quick, there was a brother who was a part of an organization back in the day, and I found out later that he was homeless for like 2 years, right? And he was homeless while we were out feeding the homeless. He was homeless while we were out organizing. He was always on the scene, always doing his thing, so on and so forth. And it wasn't till he was accepted into a particular university, and that he came to one of the PE meetings, and he's telling us, man, I just got my first apartment, so on and so forth. Man, you all have inspired me. He said, while I'm out there doing all this stuff, he said, for the last 2 years, I was homeless. And we're puzzled because of the fact that dude's always sharp dressed, he's clean, everything's good, you know what I'm saying, smell good. There was no indications at all that he was homeless. But the fact was, he said, look, I would go to the thrift store, get my clothes, whatever, I do such and such, I eat, whatever, so on and so forth. So my point is, he didn't say, look, I'm fucked up, so I don't have time to help anyone else. He said, look, I still have to have the motivation to get myself out the rut. But in the meantime, it's like what Kwame Ture said. He said, oftentimes people be like, well, I want to help my people, but after I get this money, I'm going to do such and such. We will make excuses for are excuses. And as Imam Jamil said, excuses only benefit the excuse maker. I'm not saying there aren't food deserts. I'm not saying there are not areas where the water is poison. But you know what I'm saying? But we got to figure out, because of the fact that as African people, we've been able to adapt in any situation. You know what I'm saying? We were in chattel slavery where they gave us nothing but fucking pig guts and watermelon rinds, and we still found a way to exist. So the thing is, however we feel about anything from diet to education to physical health, martial arts, or whatever, it's not what we don't have. It's where we begin and where we're willing to go with what it is we do have.
It's all part of the revolutionary process for our people. You know what I mean? And people would do what they got to do to survive. And little by little, people will try to build back up. And I think the sister's messages were strong. The things that I caught, the things that I agree with. So yeah, I mean, I love the different perspectives, and I think she's old school. And I think she physically she proves a point. You know what I mean? That sister, like,
yes.
Look,
yes, she does. Yes, she does. Yeah, some people in the chat were remarking about that. Like, did she say she was in college in the 70s? Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. So
So,
you
and
know,
that's the
that's
beauty
really
of
important and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I mean, we're gonna wrap up soon too.
Yes.
So I want to mention a couple of quick things, and I'll let you go. So one is we're gonna have some news, because we are finally at a point where we know people enjoy watching our shows, but sometimes they're on the go, they're on the run, they don't get to listen to our shows without watching them. So we're finally in a position, we finally made it happen where we are going to be putting up many of our shows on the Black Power Media Network, on Spotify and Apple and other places where you guys can listen to them when you're on a run and you can't always catch the visual. And so that'll probably be starting to happen by the next time we see y'all next week. So I just want to make sure I get that mentioned in before 10 o'clock.
Yes.
Hey, congratulations to Marcus. We'd like to welcome Marcus as a new BPM member to the channel. So thank you so much, Marcus, for re-upping on the remix. we appreciate your support here on Black Power Media. Thank you.
Word up. Yes. And man, check out some of our shows this week, man. We have a lot of heavy duty things coming up. I might hit y'all with a Riot Starter TV. I got some stuff in the chamber, but I don't think everybody's caught up to the last stuff that we did. So I might pause that for a few days because of the fact that I don't want to just be putting stuff out and folks aren't appreciate it, because there's some real dope interviews out there. And I'm not saying because I did it, I'm saying because of the fact that these people are folks that we need to hear from. Yes, we need to hear from the Jaleel Muntakins. Yes, we need to hear from the OG Shakas and so many others. But I might slow it down a little bit. I got about 3 in the chamber right now, but y'all let me know when y'all ready. But also we have Kim Brown, Burn It Down, Kim Brown tomorrow.
Yep, that's tomorrow, 5 o'clock. Also, shout out to all of our patrons. We know we have some BIDWKB patrons over here on Black Power Media. We are doing our AMA after tomorrow's show, let's say 6-ish.
Yes.
So all of our patrons, all 102 of y'all, thank you all so much. And let me just put this out here real quick for BPM people who are considering becoming Patreoners on Patreon, because the annual membership, I'm trying to tell y'all, people have been taking advantage of it. 15% off annual membership. Join Black Power Media's Patreon. If you are at the $2 level for 12 months worth of support, it will cost you $20.40. If you are a supporter at the $5 tier, it will cost $51 to support Black Power Media for an entire year on Patreon, y'all. That is a deal. And I know it's Friday is tomorrow, and a lot of y'all get paid. So I know some of y'all got $20.40 to give to Black Power Media. So sign up on Patreon, patreon.com/ is it BPM or Black Power Media?
Hey,
Black Power Media.
BlackPowerMedia.org.
Yes, patreon.com/ Black Power Media. Become an annual member for 15% off. $20.14 on the low is what you can do for BPM to support us for an entire year.
And I'm gonna drop it in the chat so people can see it. And remember, we come to the end of the month, so I know people got their credit card issues, their debit card issues. So I'll straighten that out. I don't see no fallback. We starting to pick up finally. The numbers are starting to rise. I want no fallback.
And we got some great gifts.
You sound like a pimp out here, Kamal. Like, listen,
I want my money. Where's my money?
You better have that BPM money. I know it's been a slow month. I don't care.
but also, I Mix What I Like tomorrow. Make sure you check out our Mix What I Like, 8 a.m. tomorrow. It's going to be a heavy duty joint. I'm not sure if Jackie Lukman has anything going on tomorrow night, but also make sure Saturday morning, please, if you haven't checked out Uncle Devin's show, bugging.
So good.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
Uncle
so
Devin
good.
is bringing the heat. If you have children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, or if you don't have any children and you just want to check out something dope, 10 a.m. on Black Power Media. He's in the building. 1
Warrior class is
p.m.
on Saturday, right?
Yes, Warrior class is on Saturday. Balagoon was ill. I'll let him tell you what's going on. But there should be a Warrior class on this Saturday at 1 p.m. Sundays on Sunday at 8 p.m.
Woo.
And
Oh,
we'll
and
be back.
one last thing too. So we got, as always, we got new shows popping. And we're gonna have a new show, and this is actually going to be, we're gonna put it up on YouTube, but this is actually going to be an audio show, and it's called Brokish. These sisters, they've been doing a show for a little while, and they've joined the BPM network, and they're talking about how it is to survive in America as Black folks on limited salaries, limited incomes, how to make ends meet. So it's really cool show. We're really proud to have it come over to the BPM channel. So check that out, Brokish. Go to Twitter. You can follow them. You can follow us. You can follow a whole bunch of stuff if you want that real deal, nitty gritty Black Power news coming at you.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
I was trying to get my rap on like the sisters.
I think y'all should battle because you from Brooklyn. So
I might be. I might take her out. I might take her out.
So?
I think so. Maybe
I
not.
don't know if you're gonna take her out. But
I'm
you know
not
what I'm
sure.
saying? Yeah. I couldn't take her out. I was sitting there like,
yo, we out of here.
Yes,
Bam,
more to go.
remix.
Sis was like a bomb.